Good afternoon, everyone. It's Jack from 6 Plus Plus here again. I'm back with my second episode in my Death Guard series, Catching the Contagion. Uh, just get straight into it. So, last time I mentioned I would be going pretty much straight into a Teams event with one practice game, and it was a 5 round event. And I thought I'd do a little report covering how the games went, how the army felt, some interesting plays I found, sort of some advice I might have from it, and just general thoughts about the army. Um, so the event was only 3 man teams, not far from me. 2 days, so 5 games, but it was only 6 teams. So it was it was effectively a round robin. Everyone played everyone, which I guess gives quite a good sort of standard. All the teams played each other, so no one got lucky or anything in pairings. It's all you know played out properly. Everyone played everyone. The winners won. So IKEA went with 2 teams of friends. We had sort of the strong, very meta team, and then there was us. I guess the more fun team, although I still took Death Guard with all the good things. Our team was Tau with the experimental Carder with a Storm Surge. I have no idea what it does. It seemed to be doing horrible things to lots of armies, though, including absolutely mutilating a Great Unclean one at one point, straight through the 4-up Feel No Pain. We had CK, Chaos Knights, with a Rampager. Not an amazing list, as my teammate found out. Not very in love with it. And then I had Death Guard, Virulent Vectorum with Morty. The list was like I spoke about last time, so updated index, sticky objectives, pretty much 2000 on the nose, I think. We had Mortarion as Warlord, Biologist Putrefier, and Malignant Plague Cast with 10 Plague Marines and a Rhino. A Lord of Contagion with 3 Death Shroud, Lord of Virulence with 3 Death Shroud, and then a Tallyman sit at home. We then had a 3rd unit of Death Shroud just to hang about, rapid ingress, that sort of thing. 2 units of Chaos Spawn, 2 units of Poxwalkers, and 3 heavy Blight Launcher drones. So I think pretty common list. I imagine a lot of lists will take heavily on all sorts of ingredients I've used. I think the triple drone is going to be extremely common. Not that I'm, a list pioneer. This one sort of feels almost like it wrote itself, but there's so much good stuff. It all changes. And I've got so many list ideas from that as well. So, game one, team one, we have a team of World Eaters, Chaos Knights, and Chaos Demons. So, I guess immediately for our team, I'm looking at it as like I've got pretty positive wins. They're all melee centric. I'm the anti-melee army, less so with this setup, but I good board control, good board presence, and very, very killy. And I outshoot most of them except the Chaos Knights, so that's good as well. Because the World Eaters was the Demons detachment, so didn't have Forge Fiends. I don't think he really liked them, which again to our benefit. And the Demons are not an army with any guns at all, and it was Shadow Legion, but no CSM allies, so no guns there. We did the pairings. I ended up with Chaos Knights, as you can see in the picture, and the mission was Terraform Sweeping Engagement. So that's I went first. You can see end of my first turn, or like halfway through my opponent's first turn. I've marched some knights, slightly forward. I've got Chaos Spawn sort of poking their nose out on my left objective, trying to terraform. I've got some Poxwalkers behind them, and middle objective, some more Poxwalkers. Again, Chaos Spawn behind them. Drones scattered about Mortarion. Obviously, in reserve, there'll be Death Shroud, Plague Marines, and the Rhino. Opponent has Lancer and a load of small knights. The thing here is I was quite worried about the Lancer. It's got the 4-up invuln. I've gone for -1 save, as I basically did the entire event. So I can get through it. I have a lot of lethals. I have hit rerolls as well and shooting. So I've got a lot of options. But there's a lot of stuff still. I think CK I think is favoured for us. But it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of OC. And actually, his natural expansion objective I found quite difficult to attack on this board. I could I've struggled to get it in contagion range, so getting Death Shroud there was not the easiest thing in the world. You can see I've got a drone sort of poking around that corner because it's got a really good firing line across the board for when that we've got the Carnivore there and the Lancer that want to step out. I've got a good arc onto them. I've got the two Brigands up top as well I can line up, and then there's two Brigands on my right hand side as well. They're going to push around his natural expansion. Um, we're having a bit of issues here. So the opponent, I push out a little bit. I'm pretty sure he fires my primary, which is fine. By doing so, he's very close to contagion. I'm able to get straight into him. His Lancer goes straight up the middle, maybe not the best put forward, which gives me a big springboard for my Plague Marines. They're able to get there. But he's put a lot of pressure on my natural expansion. You can see there's two dogs there. He's just picking one up in the photo because I managed to get Death Shroud into everything over there, which is great. The 6-inch deep strike has paid off really well here. I've been able to hit him really quite hard. I've been able to get. I couldn't quite get Mortarion into the Lancer, which is where the Plague Marines are sat, but the Plague Marines got in with help from the 3 drones. You can see all lined up in the gaps, able to take him out. The Lord of Virulence on his own lost his Death Shroud, but he's poking around the corner. He was able to get to me the hit rerolls I needed on the Lancer to just clear it off the board. However, whilst this game went in my favour, I think the issue I had here was I'm really quite slow. This is late, very late in the game. I'm able to get him pinned back in his deployment. He's one dog left on his home objective. I just can't get to it. I've managed to stop his primary now, so I'm going to get the win. But my Death Shroud are tucked into his deployment zone on the far side from his objective, on his home objective, on the mid no man's objective, and then got my drone, my Lord on my natural expansion, my Plague Marines on his natural expansion, but it just don't have the speed to get there. So that's sort of something I learned is if you want to get a big win, to get the score, you need to be really aggressive. You need to be able to get on those objectives early. Otherwise, you're just not going to get across the board. So when my Death Shroud were coming in turn 3, my Plague Marines are coming out of onto the middle of turn 3. It's going to take them 2 turns to get across the board. The Death Shroud are never going to get near his home, which is where the rest of his stuff was in this case. Game was 13-7 win. Comfortable with a primary. Decent secondary draws kept me in going as well. Between the Spores and Poxwalkers is easy enough. So yeah, fairly straightforward game 1. I think Chaos Knights really don't like it when you wound them when they're being saving on 4s against your AP0, which the Plague Knives are. Your little flamers actually can get quite a few wounds in on your Death Shroud, especially the Lord of Virulence giving the squad rerolls. And the drones, obviously, absolute menace. There is still 2 of them alive. He did get one of them down, but yeah, the other 2 doing job. And I've thrown all my OC there, so we can't try get onto the middle for a turn 5 extra points because his home was sticky at this point. Game 2. We actually paired into our second team. And so I paired against my friend Dan Latham of LBA 40k. We had our Grey Knights in their team, not something I really wanted to face. I think it's okay if I can get close, but he won't let me do that. And then the other list was Death Guard, which was the Mirror, no Mortarion. Again, not something I really want to do, but I didn't think my team did either, so that didn't go very well for us. This was, I guess on paper, you look at it, they have a lot of units, cultist units, they die pretty quick. But actually, it's not as easy as you'd think. I think so anyway. So it's Purge the Foe. Again, you think that's going to really help me out. And that's sort of turn 2. I secure my natural expansion and pretty straightforward. move up to screen out. He has a unit of cultists in reserve. I really don't want them coming in around the side, so I've got my backfield covered with the drone drop back there, the Tallyman drop back there. I've got my 2 Chaos Spawn moving up the flanks to keep his cultists away from me for when they rapid ingress, because it's going to happen. He's got 1 unit on the board, which you can see, and his small L in the left-hand side of his deployment zone, there's another unit of cultists there. They're not on his natural expansion. Because it's purge, he only has to hold 1, and he has to stop me holding more. So he's not doesn't need to rush up to it quite yet. And he can just trade me off the middle. The sort of critical things in this game was he'd really, really wrapped quite hard his big unit of cultists in the middle. So you can see the Rhino there. There was Nurglings in front, an inch off the wall of the L, and then down the side of the L, there was another unit of cultists. There was no way I was getting in the side. If I wanted to get in, I have to go in through the front. And I guess that was an option, but by the time it got to this stage, there was cultists in the Rhino. They were able to get out and give a little bit of a screen. I just didn't have the units to clear them out and then also engage that cultist in the middle, which is again fine. I'm trying to keep the game close. It actually ended up being really quite cagey. He did get his unit onto his natural expansion, and obviously I put my Poxwalkers out to stop him going for the middle, which I thought was a good idea. I learned very quickly that Chaos Cult insanely fast with the Desperate Pacts. He decided not to trade the middle with me, but actually to weave his way through my stuff and go for my natural expansion. Because I've only got a few OC with a couple Poxwalkers on it, he's actually able to take it off me without too much difficulty. So it was unit cultist going there first, and then it was an accursed cultist unit. The issue I had was I needed to force the engagement, and he really wasn't letting me going first. It was really quite difficult to do that, I found. And actually, even though we were both getting hold 1s, he was getting kill more in turns 3 and 4, which was quite big. That allowed him to sort of build up that little bit of score. Our vehicles just shot each other for the entire game, barely scraped the dust, the paint. But knowing he had the ability to kill Mortarion through a bit of chip damage and then a cultist unit with the full juice, I was a bit worried. You saw in the previous slide he was sat back, he kind of stayed there. So again, I think that was maybe a mistake. He should be just going forwards with the rest of the army. I think I've just played it a bit too cagey, and that led to him getting onto my natural expansion with a unit of cultists. And even though Shroud do absolute business to them, it's just not quite enough. A 6-man unit would go through them. The 3-mans with the Lord of Contagion go through most of them, but it's just not quite enough. And I just needed to take the fight to him. I think that's the thing I learned from this, but I found it quite difficult too. Mortarion maybe should have been in reserve, which is something I took away from day one. And yeah, he managed to sort of wrap up a load of things with those cultists. Game ended 8-12 loss, which is not dreadful. I think going second would have helped a lot. He got a kill 1, turn 1, I didn't. Especially because I drew like kill secondaries turn 1 as well. It was a bit rough. I could have gone for the Nurglings, but again, I think he probably wouldn't have minded that. He would have traded the Nurglings for whatever I put on there. There's nothing I have that could trade up into them. And Poxwalkers do not do any damage. And they do. There is nothing. It's nothing at all. Even to cultists, it's nothing. The round ended up being a bit of a heavy loss as well. Yeah, from this game, I sort of was like, right, I need to use Mortarion more aggressively. Was sort of scheming on how, and then didn't play out like that next game. But we go on. Game 3 was Chaos Knights again. So Chaos Knights, Imperial Knights, 2 armies I would want to face, which I was looking forward to, and their third was Custodes, which historically we're good into. So I was pretty happy with all of them. We actually did the pairings wrong. We paired backwards because it's only three. Both teams put down their defenders, passed them over. We choose the attacker for their defender rather than the correct way. So absolute mess. We ended up playing not with me or Chaos Knights into Custodes. We ended up with our Tau going to Custode, which was fine. They got the win, but not what we wanted, really. We wanted me into them, I think, really, and we wanted our Tau specifically into one of the Knights. So this Chaos Knights list was pretty much one of every War Dog and three big dogs on Take and Hold. So not the meta list, but actually a lot of T12, and my list has one weapon that is over strength 10. That's Mortarian's strike profile. So slightly concerning, but it was fine. So photos during deployment, I'm kind of, again, Death Shroud in reserve, all of them this time. Mortarian on the board still. 3 drones scattered around, Mortarian there, and I end up going second this time. I've gone first the last 2 games, so going second, which is quite nice. He moves his knights forward. I, without my Lord of Virulence, line up all 3 drones to shoot at his Sarastas Lancer. I sort of look at it, I know that it's T12. I can definitely kill it, but I need to get wounds off it soon as. Start hurting it early, because it will just run at me pretty fast. So I did that and take it down to 13 wounds, I'm pretty sure, from 25. So I do 12 damage to it, which is not bad from 3 drones without hit rerolls. So a lot of lethal hits getting through, keeping it in there. I use Mortarian's wingtip to get me the hit rerolls, the number of shots reroll strat, which is quite nice because his wings are enormous. However, I think that's kind of a critical mistake I made, as these drones are incredible at killing war dogs, and what my opponent does is full sends into my deployment zone with the Rampager and the Lancer, and between the two of them, they kill all 3 of my drones. I have the chance to heroically intervene with Mortarion. I consider it, but actually the Lancer, very real chance he just kills Mortarion. So I don't intervene. I let them sit there, get my Shroud in, get my shooting going, and actually I kill both of those vehicles next turn. But I am in my deployment zone, a bit penned in a bit. He's able to work his dogs around. I do have the sort of objective on my long board edge. I've got Poxwalkers on it, so I am getting my 10s on primary, and he's not put himself in a position to 5 me yet, which is good. And I've got stuff that I can use to slow his primary down by getting to his knights. And I only have to bring one of my unit of Death Shroud in to deal with these knights as well, between Mortarion, Plague Marine shooting, and grenades and whatnot. The next couple turns, I'm able to get sort of out my deployment zone. The Plague Marines do horrible things in shooting. Not surprised. He's trying to contest the primary a bit, but he is also just full sending me. And I guess I'm just able to sort of work around him, shoot around him, and it's because even though I've lost the 3 drones, he's traded 700-ish points to kill them, and that's not sustainable. 700 points to kill 300 points, even though they're way too cheap, doesn't work right. So he loses a huge amount of board presence in that turn 2 when I kill those 2 knights, and I'm able to just out muscle him off all the objectives. So Plague Marines can get those 2. I've got my Shroud going up the middle. Mortarian's on an objective. I've cleared him out of that bottom corner. So there's nothing on that. I've got my Lord of Contagion got in off the 6-inch because I was able to get one of my spawn over there to get him in Contagion to get the 6-inch deep strike. And yeah, so game ended. It felt pretty close, but as it went on, obviously as I got all the primaries, started going in my favour and ended up a 13-7 win. But unfortunately, we just lost the round. I think going second helped a lot. Getting that 15 at the bottom at the end of the game because I'm on all the objectives was great. So that was end of day 1. It's just a short recap there. two 13s and an 8, so very consistent, close games. Um, but the army's very strong, and I'm sort of feeling it's strong, but I'm not quite able to leverage that. I think Deathshroud moving 5 now is really nice. They're still slow, but once they hit the charge, they can move around a little bit, But actually, as you can see in the top corner, that squad of Deathshroud up there, not going anywhere. They're gonna sit there the rest of the game. So they did, which is what they did, and that's 250 points. Having that unit being able to get into something else would have been really helpful, and that could have been another WTC point swing or whatnot. So get day ends, driving home, think about the games, and I've underutilized Mortarion for sure. I've been keeping him in the middle of my army, so I've got his 3 different abilities I can maneuver, and using them reactively to flip an objective, to fight on death when someone's not expecting it. But he's actually not been doing that. He's been 380 point deterrent, which isn't just not necessary. The Plague Marines already do that. The Death Shroud already do that, especially because they're going rapid ingress 6 inches away. So it needs to change. I'm sort of thinking what to do, and I decide that day 4, game 4, game 5, I'm going to rapid ingress him. Put him in deep strike, I'm going to rapid ingress him. So we come back the next day, and we end up playing a team with demons, crons, and sisters. And we do the pairings, and I end up pairing into the sisters. I'm feeling pretty comfortable with this, similar to last time. It's search destroy, so again, I can scout into the middle, so I have spawn in a position to do that. I decide not to in the end. My Poxwalkers infiltrate behind the sort of those very, very small rectangular with the 2 little L's on it. And so the picture you can see is the end of my turn 1, my opponent's turn 1, because I've gone first again 3 out of 4 times so far. I have started Death Shroud on the board. I think I wanted some board presence without Mortarion. 140 points though. If they can start really close to the middle, they can here. Absolutely not a problem. So they're right up against the wall. I'm not really scared of him charging them. He has a few combat units, but really nothing that is gonna really quite scare me. In his natural expansion, his the objective that's just under his what would be his right elbow. I get my spawn in. I think great. Spawn will, there's only 5 dominions there. Spawn will absolutely muller through them. Turns out Spawn do not muller through them, especially when my opponent has a -1 to hit strat. I end up getting 2 hits. I only rolled 7 attacks, but I get 2 hits. And so, yeah, I prepared for that, though, by putting Poxwalkers on the middle objective to get me my secure no man's land, which was just a nice 3 VP there. With Death Shroud threatening the middle, I'm feeling pretty confident in a good setup position. I've got drones to swing around all the corners as his vehicles poke out. Because I've got cheaper stuff on the objectives, he has to do something about it. And I have heavy, heavy, heavy hitters in reserve. So Rhino's snuck up. Obviously, I know there's a firing line down the middle, but I think the Plague Marines will do so much damage given I have the strat. Given they're already in the position they want to be, I'm not super bothered about losing the Rhino, which is why I'm happy for it to sit where it is. So he moves up. He actually lands some Arco-Flagellants into my Poxwalkers in the middle objective, and I'm thinking, great. I'm exactly where I want to be with my Shroud in the middle. He gets to the Poxwalkers. I'm able to heroically intervene. I get the heroic intervention. Perfect. So I know that if he kills the Poxwalkers, because of the primary, which is Linchpin, I will still hold the middle. What I don't sort of prepare for is the sisters, the Sacrosancts, charging the Death Shroud, hitting it on a 10 with the Miracle Die 6, I'm pretty sure, which was not great. And I'm like, fine, they're only 1 wound. Death Shroud will go straight through them. Turns out Death Shroud do not go straight through them. Death Shroud kill about 4 of them. I do not take back the middle. I lose one death round in the process. I lose all but one of the Poxwalkers to the Arco-Flagellants. It is a rough day for them, and he threes me on primary because I only hold my home, because he's also throwing Arco-Flagellants onto my natural expansion, the one by my Rhino and my Poxwalkers. So maybe not a great start for me, but he's pushed forward. He's pushed his vehicles out aggressively. I've got my drones. I can line up shots. I've got Death Shroud, and I do have stuff alive in the middle, including my other unit of Chaos Spawn, which are just next to the Rhino, where you can see them there. They're just near the middle of the board. So turn 2, I'm able to get the drones out, kill the Immolator on the right-hand side, and that sort of clears a bit of space. The unit inside is no longer there because they've, jumped out, and I'm in a good spot. I've staged well. I'm going to be able to catch my primary because sisters die quick, even though the ones in the middle don't. But so looking at the board, I want to get those, kill those important things, and secure my natural expansion a bit more heavily, right? Then, again, with his vehicles in good firing lines, he's able to shoot me a little bit in his turn 2, but I rapid ingress Mortarion. And with Mortarion's rapid ingress, I get him in a pretty nasty spot. It's just behind the L, so about where the cursor is, and right in front of him is the Brigand, the Helverin. And I think the critical mistake my opponent makes is he shoots a load of guns into Mortarion, takes off 7 wounds, but that doesn't matter. Unless you're going to kill him, 7 wounds is not enough. And ultimately, Mortarion is able to walk through everything. My opponent just doesn't have quite the firepower to get to him. All the melter guns are kind of gone. Val has gone to my deployment zone, and as soon as she went towards my deployment zone, that was when I knew Mortarion could go the other side of the board and I would be safe. I knew I'd take some unkillers. He's got big wings, but I knew I'd be safe. I'm down on primary as well. I'm starting to look at my secondary cards. I'm going okay on secondaries. I start to look at secret missions, end of turn 3. And I'm pretty sure the game is going in my favour. I know my primary is still going to be an 8, followed by another 8. It's not going to get there. I've, just not scoring the points. I'm only holding my natural expansion. You can see he's got a sister on the middle. He's still able to keep me off of it. My 3-man Death Shroud and the Lord of Virulence just aren't quite getting enough damage in to get through the vehicles. But my Plague Marines have gone into a Castigator and absolutely murdered it, which is great. So I have lots of options for secondaries, especially because when I asked my opponent at the beginning of the game, he had no battle line, which was pretty key in my decision. So at the end of turn 3, with Plague Marines 5 inches off his deployment zone and Mortarion outside of his deployment zone, I have 2 sort of choices for secret mission. I can Warlord in the deployment zone, or Warlord in the opponent's home objective, or Plague Marines in the deployment zone. I end up going for Plague Marines in the opponent's deployment zone because I know that once they get in there, I'll be able to swing them around the corner and put them in that big L. And I can, even if he spikes with his Castigator, which could kill Mortarion, but it does not have enough volume to kill the Plague Marines. So I'm pretty okay accepting that, especially if I -1 damage them. I know they don't have a feel no pain, they're not the toughest unit, but I only need 1 more to live. And I was a bit iffy about Mortarion, given he was on 4 wounds when I decided to do it. I went for the Plague Marines, and it paid off. They ended up getting onto my opponent's deployment zone, tucking him right between the big L and the medium L. Mortarion was sort of right in front of them, so the Cascade couldn't get round, and the Immolating Middle had died at that point, and there was really nothing else there to deal with it. So my opponent was pretty much tail by the end of the game, but I was really happy with the secret mission. It played off really well. I think Mortarion is quite a good choice for a Warlord on the opponent's deployment zone, especially if you get a rapid ingress, because you can clear quite big gaps with Death Shroud, with Chaos Spawn spreading your Contagion, the 3 drones. You can get Mortarion into your opponent's deployment zone pretty comfortably. At least this game, I felt that anyway. So I was happy with that. Game ended 15-5 win, so the secret didn't win me the game, but it increased the score differential. Because rather than getting 16 points, I got rather than getting 8 points turn 5 on primary, I got 20. So that was nice. We got the team got the win this round as well, which is great. And so my biggest score with Death Guard so far, which is nice. Final game was the mirror match. It's quite an interesting one. I didn't really want to play the mirror, but no one else wanted to play Death Guard, so we ended up having to face each other. Um, and we're both Virulent Vectorum, both Mortarion lists overwhelmingly similar. I have more spawn, he's got Blight Haulers, and I have 3. It's a Death Shroud, he's got 2, but he has Typhus. So, yeah, very similar. I've got Tallyman on my home, he's got Poxwalkers on his home. It's all much of a muchness. I guess this was one where I felt like I'd been learning from my previous games. So again, Mortarion goes into reserve. My opponent actually keeps him on the board, which as I found out from the previous days, I think was a mistake. I think his reactive move and his Fountain Death is not enough to offer to keep him on the board. He needs to be a hammer that you throw at your opponent, even though mine is in my deployment zone, but I will explain. I ended up going first on Scorched Earth, which is not great, but it's drawish, so it's fine. I kind of wanted to go second, get the rapid ingress off, but we live. So I stage, Rhino stages. I end up again playing this mission very cagey. I think the Crucible Battle, because his natural expansion is so far away, the only thing I have that can get to it would be Chaos Spawn. So my Chaos Spawn do start in a position, they can go for it, but they also, which is just behind the big Super L in the middle, I call them. So it can scout into the gap in the Super L or straight forward if I go first. So I go first, exactly what they do. They scout straight forward, just hiding behind the wall because there's Poxwalkers on the other side of it. Just tone the objective, just get me an engage in all fronts or something similar, containment maybe. And my Poxwalkers contain on the other side of the board. A nice easy 6 to begin with. Then turn 2. Most of my stuff's pretty hidden. He creeps out a little bit again, still playing quite cagey. I bring my Lord of Virulence, my natural expansion, which looks a bit weird. It's a Death Shroud you want is bringing aggressive, but I know that he probably wants to attack that, so I have the Poxwalkers that move up to screen it. I have the Death Shroud there that they can do an action like a cleanse or something, and the Lord of Virulence can still use his point at something, give me hit rerolls, and I have my drones scattered along my back line to do that, to take advantage of that. So I'm able to still do actions at the top, which I needed at this point. I'm able to shoot really quite hard into some of his targets. But he rapid ingresses not far from where Mortarion is at the moment. There's a gap left there by everything being dead. And there's a drone down there, and he's able to get 3 Death Shroud into the drone in his turn. But when he does that, he's drawn secure no man's land or something. He wants to get my home objective. And actually, because it's Scorch, I'm only holding my home and my natural expansion. He's going to take me off the middle. I really need to stop that. I can't get to the middle to stop it, but he's still a few inches off my home because he needs to charge and swing around onto it. And I rapid ingress Mortarion on the far side of it. And with that, Mortarion's going to drop OC6 onto it with the Tallyman for OC7. His 3 Terminators and Lord of Virulence are not able to strip it off of me, no matter what, or Lord of Contagion rather. So I'm happy with that. He kills the drone, fine. He doesn't go for the objective. There's nothing he can really do about it. It's all good. I then have my 2 drones, my Lord of Virulence, in that spot. They can line up straight down that corridor. Full hit rerolls, 1 CP, full number of shot rerolls. Mortarion's close by. I have grenades. I have his Rotwind. I have Lantern. I have the Rhinos shooting. So I have a lot that can go into these 3 Terminators. And actually, my opponent rolls 0 saves and they all die. Lord of Contagion doesn't stand back up, stays dead. Which was not great for him. Mortarion's now stood there with nothing to charge. but it's whatever. He's such a durable unit in this match. I'm not really worried about him being hurt too much, so I'm able to, I guess, even though I played quite passive with him, my opponent played a little bit passive with him. At this point, I'm happy with him sitting in the open. I'm not worried about him getting hit by anything. A couple drones won't do too much. Honestly, it's the two light haulers he has. They're the bigger threat, and they are both just tucked around on his side of his natural expansion. So if he wants to expose those, that's fine. I am able to get his Poxwalkers on his home inside Contagion range. I'm able to take his home objective off him in 5 as primary in this turn, which is big because it keeps me just that bit ahead, which I will need because in the bottom of the game, he's going to be able to get a 5 VP or a 10 VP swing because he will get a burn that is almost guaranteed, and I will have to struggle for my burn. So game continues. We end up with my Death Shroud there. He has to send his Plague Marines backwards to deal with them, because if he doesn't, I will burn his home objective, and that will be a huge, huge swing. And taking his Plague Marines out of the game, getting them going backwards is great. My Lord of Contagion is, still back there. So when he dies, he stands back up. He can either go kill some Plague Marines, or actually, in this case, I draw Established Locust, and he's able to get me 4 VP for being my opponent's deployment zone, which is fantastic. The score is slightly shifted in my favour by 5 points because of this. The secondary is still pretty close. We're contesting the middle with a lot of stuff. His drone's going in, my Death Shroud are there. He has Typhus go into the Chaos Spawn. Typhus dies to the bounce back mortal wounds over 2 fight phases against the spawn. Kills them, but not what you want to happen. So dice in my favour, for sure. It's not great for my opponent. Again, his Mortarion is still not really in the fight. Mine has contributed to killing 3 Shroud and Lord of Contagion. His is kind of wandering around his deployment zone, next to some Terminators. Eventually, mine is in the open and can go straight through the big gap in the Super L and get into his Light Hauler, his drone. Happy enough about I'm able to get my Plague Marines on the center objective to clear out his Death Shroud that have gone in. So again, I'm able to. A lot of my assets are sort of lining up and working together. The Lord of Virulence has poked his head on the corner to get the hit rerolls, because the Rhino has stayed back because I haven't wanted to engage it. Then, with his Mortarion there, there's just not really room for his Mortarion to intervene. It's quite a big jump over, so he doesn't in the end. I'm able to happily chill with the drone. Unfortunately, my opponent does hit a 10-inch charge to get his Plague Marine straight back into the fight, which is a bit of a blow. I think if he had failed that charge, it would have been quite a bigger score swing. They're just, they're so far out of the fight, but hitting the 11-inch charge or 10-inch charge, whatever he needed, to get him into that middle objective to kill enough of my stuff when he needed it, was a nuisance, basically. But yeah, it kept the game close. He ends up swinging his Mortarion way around mine, doesn't want to engage, which makes sense. He also charges his Biphytic Hauler into Mortarion, tie him up a bit more, which is great play. Between the two vehicles, Mortarion's sweep nor strike will kill both. So when he does that on turn 4, Mortarion is stuck there for the turn 4 fight phase and for turn 5, which is what he wants. So even though he's OC6 in the middle, it gives my opponent a chance to get back in the game and kind of ignore Mortarion for the rest of it with 180 points rather than 400. His Mortarion swings around, burns my home, turn 5. As you expect, I burn my natural expansion, he burns his natural expansion, and so that's the big swing that normally happens, but it's okay. So when the game ends, it ends up as a 11-9 win for me. I think that 5ing his primary on his home on turn 2 or 3 was so useful for keeping the game close, because I knew it's just so difficult to defend your home. I was kind of hoping he'd swing his Mortarion into mine, but given how the units ended, I just had nothing to tie his up with. His sweep just kills the Plague Marines. I need to get mine into him, and I just can't in this position, really. I need to stop that happening, but I just don't have the assets for it at this point. Yeah, really interesting game. I thought the mirror is pretty violent. The anti-infantry in really hurts each other, but actually, yeah, it was everything died so fast. A lot of it came down to just rolling invuns because the myphitic hauler made 5 out of 6 invuns or 4 out of 5 invuns against Mortarian's sweep, and then just sat there for another turn, which was a nightmare. Not at all what I wanted. But so that was the round. Again, another draw. So actually, end of the event, I finished with a 13-7, a 13-7, a 15-5, an 11-9, and an 8-12. So all really consistent scores. If I go back to my list, I think there's nothing in the list that I would change immediately. There's nothing that sort of really let me down. I think a lot of it was learning. I think having the Mortarion next to Plague Marines, sometimes next to Death Shroud as well, having all 3 of those units in the middle was such a points investment that I just wasn't able to be fast enough up the board. What I really wanted to be doing was getting Mortarion off the rapid ingress into his natural expansion, into his home objective, down the side, and he's the fastest unit I have really, besides going around terrain. So I need to be getting him up the board as soon as possible, using a rapid ingress so he doesn't get hurt too much because he still dies, which is a big thing I learned. The drones, insane damage. They're going to get hit so hard. They almost worth not getting too reliant on 3 of them, or maybe changing some assets out so the list isn't quite as efficient. But I don't know. That's something I have to learn. Attachment rule, sticky objectives was nice, really good for my home. It meant I didn't need to screen it with Poxwalkers at all. It was a Tallyman the entire event, and that was all I needed. He can sticky it immediately and run off just behind it to cover that 9-inch bubble in the back. If they have a 6-inch deep strike, really discourages them from dropping in because they can't just, if they shoot him off, I still control it. They can't just shoot me off to 5 my primary on something like Scorched Earth. They have to shoot it off and then move on to it, which is really, really a nuisance for a lot of armies. So almost makes it not worth it. The Plague Marines damage is great. I'm not sure I need them. I think in the Champions of Contagion detachment, they're a lot better with access to they still have access to hit rerolls. They have access to crit 5s, they have access to fights first. You don't need to run the best characters. You can just pick and choose and do it from that. The Foul Blight spawn for the no advance or is great, and the fights first he offers too. So given you don't need the crit 5s, you can drop the biologist for him. It's a bit more expensive, but it works out quite well. Something I'd like to try. From the list, though, I think Poxwalkers and Chaos Spawn are absolute must-haves. The spawn at T7 were just able to sit in combat with units on the spread lose one of the spawns, take 2 wounds the other. He falls back, he brings a contagion bubble 8 inches with him, but it's a 6-inch bubble, that's 14. You can get that contagion anywhere, which is so useful for your Death Shroud, getting into the correct positions for Deep Strike, which is sort of, as I was going through the event, is what I was learning, is you really need to be able to get your Death Shroud in the right position to Deep Strike. You need to be able to spread your contagion, because if your opponent is like wrapped or screened or layered, you're just going to struggle. But being able to move cheap units down alleys between stuff where they might get overwatched, but no one wants to overwatch Chaos Sport at T7 with a Feel No Pain. There's nothing good that kills them on Overwatch, so they're just fantastic for that. But yeah, I'm really happy with the list. I think probably try without Mortarion in the future. I think he's great. I think I played him wrong, as I said. I think 2 units of Death Shroud might be just as, or 2 units of Light Lords might be almost just as good. The extra of resources would be great. The Demon Prince with the Feel No Pain is really quite durable. He can just exist. He is a mini Mortarion and can do all the things. You want the free strat, which is brutal with the -1 damage. It plays together so well. So it's something I'd really like to try. Overall happy with the list. 4-1 result for me. 5 very consistent games. My practice game was very consistent as well, with another 13-7 win in WTC. So I think the next step for me is learning how to push the score, is learning what do I need to do different. How do I get my scores not 13-7s, 11-9s? How do I get 14-6s, 15-5s, 16-4s? How do I push towards a 20-0 when the game is going in my favor? How do I capitalize? And I think the issue I found was 5-inch beam Death Shroud on my opponent's objective in the middle of the fight side of the board was great. But if he's got assets all over the middle and he's still contesting the middle on a mission where it's only hold 1 or hold 2, or there's no hold more, or there's no hold 3, or extra actions they can do, they are 250-ish points doing nothing. They kill 150 points, just a trade down, which is, I guess, fine. So something to work on, something to look at the next iteration of the list. Yeah, I will hopefully get some practice games. I have an event in June. I will have a new list by then, and I'm going to hopefully be able to talk about it soon. Maybe cover some lists, cover a bit of the Codex that I've not talked about, maybe the Demons Detachment. I know Tom Lohman from 6 has given it a go and has had varying success with it, but it seems very fun. The Great Unclean ones have access to a 6-inch deep strike, which will be interesting to talk about. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for watching the first one. Hopefully I will see you in a video in the next couple of weeks. Bye bye.